Hey everyone, welcome to the Higher Alignment Podcast. I'm your host, Minh-Thu Lam, and I'm an executive coach focused on helping people heal their burnout and reconnect to their purpose through self-mastery. I'm a recovering perfectionist and control freak who spent too many years living overwhelmed and exhausted. Now I show executives how to identify their blind spots and use this to propel them on their journey to finding more fulfillment and freedom without burning out. If you've been feeling lost and disconnected in life, book a complimentary connection call to discuss how we can get you back on the path of self-mastery and living a life that feels successful on your terms. Go to higheralignmentconsulting.com/program to book your call, and we'll see you on the other side. So let's talk about fear and the oh so subtle yet profound ways it holds us back from not only living the life that we want to, but just holds us back from sometimes really silly things. And last week, I had a session with a client who I've been working with for a little while. And full transparency, this client has dealt with severe depression in the past. And when these, you know, instances happen, it can really affect her day to day, like really weighs her down. Now, she's done some great work, and since we've been working together, she's had really incredible shifts. I've been so proud of her. However, of course, nothing's perfect. And the point of healing and growing and doing this work is not so that it completely goes away, right? It's so that when these tough days happen, when these spirals happen, we can ground on ourselves in the process and then hopefully come out of it a lot quicker. And not that quickness is the goal. The goal is just to suffer less through it, right? We know how to manage it better. We know how to still stay attached to who we truly are, not get stuck in the spiral of this fear and this identity of not being enough or whatever it is. So on this particular day of her scheduled session, we we got on, and I could tell right away she was in a mood, and she was very closed off, which is not how she had been the last. We've been working together for a little bit over a month. She was very closed off. I was asking her what was going on. She did tell me that it was a really hard day, but she didn't really want to give me much more information than that. And so I just gave her the space. I didn't force her or push for anything, but naturally by the end of the session, she had shifted out of this and she was more present in her body, more open, more flowing, like just, I want to say back to her true self. And at the end of the session, she told me, she's like, I wanted to cancel today so bad. Like, I did not want to be here. I was thinking of all the excuses, but there was a little part of me that knew I should show up. She's like, but there was a really big part of me that said, we don't like Minh-Thu, and so we don't want to go to this session. Okay. She's like, there's a big part of me that resists you heavily. And when she told me this, I welcomed it. I was so proud of her for voicing that and for saying it because it's the truth. I don't want her to run from that. But I didn't take it personally, right? Because I know what part of her is speaking. And I think this is a really great example to pour into and to use it as an example for people because she's admitting to me that there's a part of her that doesn't like me because I am the representation of her growth and I'm the representation of her leaving behind these limiting beliefs and fears. And so whether I commend her for having the awareness of what was going on, but the thing is most of us don't, because the truth is all of us have had moments like that where you meet someone or you're in a situation and you can't quite put your finger on what it is that you don't like about them, but there's something that's really holding you back. Now, disclaimer, sometimes our guts do say something about the fact like, oh, there's something about this person that feels off, like I'm gonna be aware of this. But these situations are very nuanced, like if we're talking about our subconscious and our ego and even our nervous system, like those things that we all have, okay, we all have those systems within us. They don't care about us being healthy or happy. They care about us being alive. Okay. That's what these systems are designed to do. So when they think about your survival and their job to keep you alive, they go, all we know is what we've done up to this point. And even if that's been toxic relationships, even if that's been harmful things, even if that's been really unhealthy situations, but we've survived through that, those systems would rather bet on keeping you in that same space because it knows that you can survive there. Whereas the unknown, which may be healthy relationships, more abundance, growth of any kind, those systems don't know what that brings. So therefore, they want to play it safe. Okay. And so when I say these situations are nuanced, where you do meet someone and you're like, oh, I can't figure out why I'm resistant to them, it's because that might be subconscious survival programming that you don't even know is running the show. Okay. And that's why I struggle with this whole concept of the whole fuck yes thing, right? I think we've seen that online where it says, well, if it's not a fuck yes, then it's a heck no, right? Like that, if you don't have this like big bodily yes, and that means there's something wrong with it. And like, I've never bought into that belief because sometimes my fuck yeses have been very unhealthy programming from my past, and because I know that choice, that decision, that behavior so well, it can feel like a fuck yes because I have confidence in it because I've done it so many times, but it doesn't mean it's the healthiest or it supports my growth, you know? So so sometimes when we're adverse to things, we have to look a little bit deeper into the situation and really ask some logical questions and also still tune into our emotions, right? Now, this example with my client is such a great one because the basis of our relationship is for her highest growth. Okay. So the reason her and I are even in this interaction is to support her to become more free, more loving, more calm, more peaceful, have this growth. Like there is no doubt that the point of our relationship is for her highest involvement, for her to be the healthiest, happiest, just most fulfilled version of her, however that looks. Okay. So there's no questioning of like, if we're thinking of any other type of just regular relationship, whether that's a romantic partner or even family or just friends, like in those dynamics, there's like, you hope you come together with the same objective, but there is still a little bit of like, well, are our objectives even the same? Um, do we have the same idea of what it takes to get there? Like there's just, again, nuances, right? But again, with this example, I think it's so brilliant because we can all agree that we're there for her. So this relationship is supporting her highest level of health. Okay. And even in that, even her knowing from a logical space that Minh-Thu is here for my growth, for the best version of me to come out, her fear still kicked in. Okay, her fear still started saying these little sweet whispers of the background saying, what does Minh-Thu really know? Why do we need to see her today? Let's just stay in the spiral we're in. Why do we need to entertain Minh-Thu? Right? So if her subconscious was spitting that fear out to her, knowing, like, and her fully well knowing I'm here for her highest involvement, think about how our subconscious is eating away at us in situations where we're not as clear on what it is. And it may actually be preventing us from taking some really incredible steps in our growth, right? I think about a situation I was in recently with someone I love dearly, and I saw a very similar thing play out where the relationship was getting to a point where they were feeling like they weren't as invested or just didn't see the same objective with it. And this person couldn't give any like logical or rational reasoning as to why the commitment to it was changing, and I was sitting there trying to understand, and there's no reasoning there. And to me, it was just a a moment of fear unconsciously weighing on the situation, and that person not even realizing how their fear was impacting the trajectory of their life, right? And that's why I wanted to highlight this, because we all have fears. We all have subconscious programming, survival strategies that were developed from when we were kids. So it's not a bad thing. It's not something to judge or have at fault, but it is something that we need to be curious about. And when it gets highlighted, because that's the point of relationships. The point of relationships is to bring the unconscious to the conscious. Okay. I always say, like, yes, I think spending time alone as an adult is an important chapter in your life. Like, you do need to be comfortable on your own. And there is some healing that, in my opinion, can only be done on your own. But then there is some healing that only can be done in relationship. Again, romantic, platonic, professional, whatever, because we need other human beings to bring it to light, because we can't trigger ourselves. I can't trigger myself sitting alone in my living room by myself, right? Like I have to be interacting in order for it to come to light. But think about the fact that when these fears pop up, so many of us are so quick to just chop it up to, nope, this just either wasn't the right fit, or I don't belong in this place anymore. And sometimes it does require that to it requires that to happen for you to actually get the lesson, for you to actually be able to ask the deeper questions as to what's going on here. So sometimes a separation or a rupture has to happen for you to really take the space to ask the questions. But the key here is ask the questions, right? Like, don't sit then once, if you do leave a job or you do leave a relationship, don't all of a sudden then just be like, well, that wasn't the right thing for me. Because if you're constantly staying in the mind frame of that other party needs to change, or that other party just wasn't the right fit, and you're not directing any of that energy back to yourself, you are missing a huge piece of the puzzle, and you will stay in this pattern. And I'm speaking from experience. Like, in my past, with past relationships, I often I was quick to cut off, I was quick to block and delete and all these things. And I would be in this mind frame of, he didn't do this or he didn't do that, or whatever. And there was definitely merit in that. There was some behaviors that were not supportive to the relationship and that weren't healthy. But for the first part of my life, I wasn't asking the questions about, like, what got me into that situation in the first place, or how I was holding myself back from actually being the person I needed to be in the relationship, right? Okay, if you've been feeling exhausted and overwhelmed with your day-to-day life and you're not sure whether you're actually burnt out or not, go take my free quiz called Is My Burnout Fixable? It only takes 1 to 2 minutes, but it will give you an assessment on what level of burnout you're currently experiencing, and also provide you some tips you can start to implement right away to help improve your current state. So go to higheralignmentconsulting.scoreapp.com to take the quiz, and then DM me or tag me with your results. All right, back to the episode. And so when we're navigating these relationships or just life in general, we have to be cognizant of the fact that our subconscious and our ego, to me, which are interchangeable, are constantly at play. And the first thing I think we need to do is be aware of the fact that while that is a part of us, in my opinion, that's not the true us. That's just the survival mode of us, which is necessary. Like, you can't live life without your subconscious, your ego, because they have, again, helped keep you alive. That's the point of those programs. However, that part of us gets developed when we're children. And when we're children, we don't have the cognitive ability to discern between what is actually, like, what is healthy in society, what is, like, we just obviously don't have the same abilities that we do as adults to think about these things. So we're just doing what we need to do to stay alive, receive connection, receive love from our parents and from our environment. Like, who do we need to please in order for them to keep us alive? Because as kids, we depend on co-regulation, which means that we don't have the faculties to essentially take care of ourselves fully emotionally. We need a caregiver to help us do that. So then The exchange when we come into the world as kids is to our parents is I'll be the kid that you need me to be, and you give me the love and protection and safety that I need. Like that is the exchange, right? So these survival strategies, the subconscious programming, the ego, it all comes from our childhood. It all comes based on how we were raised, the dynamics we had with our mother, our father, our siblings, whoever our caretakers were, okay? And then what happens is we carry this through life. And typically, we eventually get to a point in our adult life where certain situations happen, typically repeatedly. And then we start to see that there is some merit to the fact that we have carried these strategies from 5 years old into 25, 35, 45, whatever the case is, right? Now, as adults, however, we do not have to subscribe to that same strategy anymore. Now we do have the faculty, we do have the capacity to ask the questions and make conscious decisions that are better for us. And that's the point of these situations, is to bring, again, the subconscious into the conscious. I didn't even realize that fear was holding me back. I didn't even realize I was saying no to these things. I just thought it was like how I feel, so therefore I shouldn't follow through with it. Well, no, because a lot of your feelings are based on your nervous system telling you that we don't need this to survive. So X, bye, right? And we go into that protective mode. But that doesn't support our growth. That doesn't support us getting to the next level of life. And typically that doesn't support what we usually want the most out of life, you know? So as adults, when these situations come up, we really need to get curious as to, again, where this came from, why it came up, and how we can choose to be different. Okay. And I just wanted to talk about this today because sometimes we hold ourselves back thinking that it's quote unquote just not the right fit, but it's actually just our fear talking. And I have seen how fear has really held people back in life. And honestly, it's sad. It's a little bit heartbreaking. And I've been in those positions myself, but it's heartbreaking to see people that you love really get stuck in fear. And it's no judgment or no shade, but it's just heartbreaking to know that they're allowing that to dictate how they move and their experience of life, when really there's so much more for us all to experience, you know? And sometimes moving past the fear, we think we have to do it all ourselves, and we don't. Like, we don't. I think that's the biggest thing, is when people get scared of stuff, it makes them feel isolated, and like maybe they're the only one going through it. And then sometimes they know it's fear and they start to judge themselves. Like, I'm an idiot. Like, why can't I just get past this? Like, why do I keep making this same mistake? And they judge and they shame themselves. When really that exact energy of shame and judgment towards yourself is creating more resistance to that fear. It's perpetuating the situation. Instead of having shame and judgment towards it, you should just accept it. I'm scared. And that subtle thing, acceptance, is so freeing, because now what it's doing is it's just bringing it to the surface. I'm scared. Being in this relationship scares me. It's the healthiest thing I've ever experienced before. I'm scared. This position, I've never had to be responsible for this much at my job before, and it scares me. Even though I wanted the growth, even though I wanted to take my career to the next level, being at this level of responsibility, it scares me. Being in this healthy, committed relationship, it scares me because that's not what I saw growing up, right? Like, these are very real things. And what we try to do is we try to be strong and pretend it doesn't bother us, but then all that's doing is suppressing the energy. It's not freeing the energy and allowing it to escape. It's just suppressing it. And when we don't allow things to be released, we're holding them captive, right? Like, if I'm not allowing that to be released on my body just by voicing it, I'm holding it captive. Well, what do you think that captivity energy breeds? It's more fear, right? So if we can just remember that, first of all, every single human being has experienced this in some way, shape, or form. It looks different for all of us, but we've all experienced it. We all know what fear is like. We all know how debilitating it can be. But also knowing that it's really just inside your mind. Like, there's no boogeyman roaming around you saying that if you do this, like, I'm gonna, there's gonna be some massive consequence. Like, yeah, I guess the fear is always failure. Like, if we're really coming back to it, the fear gets bred because we're scared we're going to fail at the job or we're going to fail at the relationship. They're going to leave us before we have the chance to leave them, or whatever silly story we tell ourselves. But that's also making the assumption that the worst case scenario is going to happen. And I get it. We're human. We have a negative bias. We think again from that mode. We're programmed to think, what is the worst case scenario? But then also, you don't know what's possible. You don't know what you can shift and change and evolve if you just lean into the uncomfortable, to the discomfort. If you just lean into the discomfort, what more can come up? And discomfort, uncomfortability, whatever, that's always going to happen with something's unfamiliar. It doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, right? This is where you have to ask the practical questions. Is this situation supporting my growth? Is this situation in alignment with what I said I've wanted to create for myself? Is this situation healthy? Does this situation honor me for who I am, allow me to be my true self, my authentic self, and love me, respect me, accept me either way? Those are all things that I think are really telling of a healthy situation. Again, whether it be a relationship or a work environment or any type of relationship, right? And I think when we can ask ourselves these hard questions and we can just honor the fact that we all have fear and know it's going to play a part, it allows us to be freed of it in a sense. And it takes that pressure off our shoulders. And, I have said for many years now, one of my mantras has been like, I never want fear to be the reason I don't do something or I don't try something. Because to me, the regret of not trying and not giving it my heart is a bigger pain to live with than trying something and potentially failing. Like, to me, that is me being my worst enemy. That is me being my biggest obstacle. And I don't ever want to be the reason I hold myself back. And I'm also intelligent enough to know that I am the reason I hold myself back. Like, anything I haven't accomplished yet is because of my own inner fears. But just because I'm moving a little bit slower or it's taking me a little bit longer, it doesn't mean that that's not a reason to not try at all, you know? And so I would say that the next time some type of situation pops up where you're really questioning or you're having some resistance, and again, maybe you can't quite figure out why, again, ask those questions to yourself. What is this supporting within me? Is it from a logical standpoint allowing me to be accepting me for who I am, allowing me to be my authentic self, allowing me to show up as my true self? Because again, to me, those are all healthy, very healthy indicators of a situation. And if those are there, then I would encourage you to lean into the unknown and allow it to teach you. Allow yourself to be vulnerable. Allow yourself to do things differently than you have in the past. And I promise you, when you might not get the outcome you want out of every situation, but that behavioral pattern of leaning into the uncomfortable, asking, is this healthy for my growth? And then choosing to take a step. Every time you do that, you will level up because you're reprogramming and rewiring your subconscious. You're taking energy out of that identity in your ego that thinks it's stuck in shame and fear. It's allowing that ego to slowly die off, and it's creating a new identity and it's not even a new identity, it's allowing the true version of you to come to the surface. And in my opinion, the true version of you is a being that's full of love and energy and doesn't even see fear or limitation as an option. And call that spiritual, call it whatever you want, but that is my full belief. I think the whole point of the human experience is to get back to unconditional love. And to me, unconditional love means full acceptance of who you are and knowing that the only limits you ever have are the ones you put on yourself. So I hope that helps. The next time fear comes in, ask the questions. And I hope that you choose yourself. I hope that you choose growth. And no matter what the outcome is from the situation, I hope it just leads you to deeper levels of love and discovery. And I promise you that you are capable of so much more than you could ever imagine. And I'm not just saying that to blow smoke up your ass. Like, I really fully believe that for each and every one of us. And sometimes we have people around us that can see that before we can. And if you have those people in your life, what a blessing. But I promise you, whatever level you're currently existing at, it's only a small fraction of what you're capable of. And if you can just acknowledge the fear and choose to move forward anyways, you will unlock some new levels that you didn't even know were possible. So thanks for tuning in, guys, and we'll catch you in the next episode. All right, guys, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Higher Alignment Podcast. If you got something out of this episode, I would ask that you please go leave this podcast a 5-star review and also subscribe so that it can find its way to other people who are having a hard time and need support. My mission in life is to help executives realize that we don't need to suffer in silence while still performing at a high level. I want to help free people of the heavy pressure they carry on a day-to-day basis, and having more people listen to this podcast will do just that. So wherever you listen to your podcast, please go subscribe and also leave it a 5-star review, and we'll see you in the next episode.